is the word gene pool. And gene pool, maybe you've heard it before in a sentence. My mom used to say it in this sentence. Ross, it seems like you came from the shallow end of the gene pool. What it means, the gene pool, is this. Think about maybe you've heard it this way, like when people apply for a job, they call it an applicant pool. It's all the people that applied for a job. Gene pool is the same thing. It's all the genes in a specific population of people. Like we could talk about the gene pool in here, and it would be limited to the genes that are in here, like brown hair, curly hair, whatever. There might be a gene for cancer in here. There might not be a gene for cancer in here. But the gene pool is all the genes available in a specific population. The one that I've got up here is bullfrogs, my specific population of bullfrogs. We've got green skin genes, we've got blue skin genes, we've got red skin genes. There could be other genes out there, but they are not part of that population. So the gene pool is just the genes in a population in an area. Right? Next one, and last definition for today, is the term relative frequency. I would not write it down the way it's written right here. I would write it this way. The percentage of animals, or the percentage of individuals that have a trait in a population. So you would say, like, 37% of people have light brown hair. That would be the relative frequency of light brown hair. So it's a percentage assigned to a trait in a population. Make sense? Again. It?
The percentage assigned to a trait in a population.
There you go. So the percentage assigned to a trait in a population, like 36% of the people have blonde hair, or 51% of people are women. I think that's true. Could be. So, good with two definitions? Perfect. We're going to move on to the next bit. And we'll talk about what these guys intended to come up with, or discovered, which was when evolution does not occur. So, when evolution does occur, obviously it's called evolution. When evolution doesn't occur, it's called equilibrium. When a population no longer is changing, doesn't change to meet the needs or the demands of the environment. So the Hardy-Weinberg principle talks about when evolution will not occur is basically what its purpose is. And to talk about those conditions, and today what we'll do is talk about those conditions as they relate to the human population. And we'll kind of make our own decision about whether the human population is evolving or not. You may have some ideas on that already. Like, for instance, somebody just stapled their hand in this class. That would be evidence that probably intelligence is not increasing over time. Just saying that if you're in 10th grade and you just I wonder what would happen if I did this.
Okay, that's not what happened.
You were messing with the stapler. It doesn't make it any better.
Wait, so here's the question the lawyer would ask, right? Did you or did you not staple your hand?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. No further questions. I do not have a Band-Aid. I'm sorry. Did you get it in between your fingers?
No, right on my pinky, the pad of my
I think somebody said at your table said it, but you're familiar with the term karma, right? Okay. So, like I just said, when evolution doesn't occur, it is called equilibrium. And there are some arguments out there that would suggest that the human population may or may not be, well, there's both sides of it, may or may not be in equilibrium currently, evolving or not evolving. Got this? Okay. Yeah, that's pretty quick. Animals moving into a population, they're bringing new genes into the population, which would cause it to change. Or if you've got animals leaving a population, they're taking genes with them from the gene pool and causing that percentage to change. So that's why animals can't be leaving or entering. But if we consider the population cedar, the people on Earth, then certainly no animals are entering or leaving the population. Number 4, no mutations. And that's pretty self-explanatory. No errors in the DNA code are being made from one generation to the next.
If mutations are random, how is it possible?
Yeah, this one is probably the one that you can't do anything with. And then there's one more. And this one we'll talk about for a minute or so here, that there is no natural selection taking place. So the question is, this to me is kind of the most interesting one for humans, and that is natural selection taking place on the human population. The next piece that's going to come up are the conditions for equilibrium to be in place. Right, so this is what it takes for evolution to not be occurring. These 5 conditions we're about to go over. And the first one is random mating, which isn't what you may be thinking it is. Random mating means that there are no like selective practices in like choosing a partner to breed with. If you remember, we looked at giraffes, and that would be an example of non-random mating. The one that gets to mate is the one with the more powerful neck or the longer neck or whatever, the one that wins the fights, right? And the subdominant one does not get to mate. That's the opposite of random would be intentional, so intentional breeding. Random mating would be like there are no selective characteristics. And I think in humans, do you think humans are random in their mating practices, as in like is there a specific trait that we find desirable, or is there like more random in nature? And I think if you looked overall, that it would be more random in nature.
More random, but there can still be.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody winds up, if you want it, you wind up with a mate at some point in life. You wind up with a husband or a wife, right? Somebody will take you no matter where you are, no matter what you are. Somebody gets you. So I would say that because of that, human is probably on the random mating scale. It may not be fully random, but it's pretty random. It's not like the biggest, it's not like Brock Lesnar is the one. Everybody gets a husband or what. Yeah, it's not like elk where there's one elk and they've got a harem of cows. It's like one man, one woman, typically, or whatever. But, yeah. Next one is large population. And that one's pretty well defined. That one humans certainly meet that criteria because there are, last I checked, it was like 7.4 billion of us on the planet. Which is, that's insanely huge. We have a huge population. The reason why you need a large population, we can use Olivia for an example in this. So if Olivia were part of a population where we're Olivia, Logan, Sheridan, and Annabeth, right? It was just those 4. They were the only people in that population, the only 4 people left on Earth. And on accident, Olivia died. Sorry. So at that point in time, right, if Olivia kicks off and there's only a population of 4 and the population's down to 3, she was the only source of the blonde hair gene in that population. That means that like that population just lost its blonde hair gene. 25% of that population just died off, but 100% of their blonde hair gene just went away. In a very large population, no offense here, Olivia, but in a very large population, if Olivia is to die randomly, it may make a big difference to people on Earth because we all love Olivia, but in terms of like percentages and things like that, the Earth really doesn't care. Because one person out of 7.4 billion, really not that big a deal, and chances are someone is born to replace you, right? Like one person born, two people are born, one person dies, essentially. Large populations aren't subject to like big changes in percentages because there's so many people. Next one would be that there are no animals moving in or moving out of the population. And that, I think, again, is true on Earth, depending on how you define it. But if you go back far enough in time, your partner, the person you were going to spend the rest of your life with, would be, near to you or far to you. If you went back like 300 years in time, was your soulmate on a different continent or in the same town? Same town, right? And I would say then probably we would say that people really weren't on a large scale maybe moving in and out of populations. There was some travel within a continent or something like that, but you couldn't go around the world. So that was probably true then. And then for a period of time, there were a lot of people moving around the world. And I think we've redefined population now. So if we define population as of humans on Earth, then there are certainly no people like exiting Earth to go breed someplace else or coming down to Earth to breed here on Earth. I don't want to like wreck anybody's bubbles or anything like that, but there are there's no aliens that have landed here on Earth that we are aware of. Right? And another point of that is this that I want to make to crush your like romantic dreams and stuff like this. If you're currently in a relationship and you're like, oh, this is my soulmate, I was destined to be with this person. The fact is, it's really controlled by where you live. Like, if you lived in Georgia, you would have found a different person to date in Georgia. If you live here in Grants Pass, Oregon, you found your person to date here in Grants Pass, Oregon. Like, I don't think there's such a thing as a soulmate. If there was, there'd only be one person on the planet for you, and maybe they're in like Asia, and you're never going to find them, and you live your whole life. You just kind of. It sounds like a story here.